Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming back to Mary's Little House here at Centerville. Oh, was it hot today? It was 106 or 7, someone told me, and it was like walking into an oven when the pies are done. It just was really, really, really hot. I'm just so glad you came. You probably noticed this little figure here. It's you, and you probably recognize it's a willow tree, a sculpture, a figure. It's a lovely one. I just couldn't keep my eyes off of it. This is called the Angel of Wishes, and we say in the spiritual life we must have a great desire to be holy, and that great desire to be holy is to be falling in love with God, to love Him with all our hearts, with all our being, with all our strength, with all our mind and our heart, every being, part of us. God deserves all our love, not just sort of a side thing over here, but all our love. And in that love we have with God, we love others. Well, look at her. She's just falling in love. She's guarding her heart, guarding the desire of her heart, which would be God or our spouse, or if she's a consecrated, wants to give herself totally to her divine spouse Jesus. It's the love for Jesus. So we all are called to love because we come from love. God is love, and we're made to the image and likeness of God, who is love. So we're made for love, not for self-absorption, not for number one. Watch it out for number one. Not for just getting it all for ourselves, but for love, which is a gift of ourselves to others in humble and service and in caring, really caring for others. That's the most exciting thing we could ever do. In fact, St. Augustine says our greatest romance is our love for Jesus, is our romance with Jesus. He is the divine lover, and when we fall in love with Him, the whole world becomes a beautiful place. Yes, very wounded, which calls us to be very compassionate and very loving and very forgiving, as Jesus is. But look at her; she's got something, and that got something is Jesus, is love, is our desire to please Him and to please others for love of Him. To love with all our being. We're called to love. That's where we're going to be. The only thing we're going to be judged on is how we love, how we help people who are hungry, who are thirsty, who are lonely, who are in prison, who are sick. That's how we're going to be judged. Love is the only thing that really counts from the get-go to our last breath. Love, and she's just showing that desire to to love. I'm in love with God. I'm in love with the one God gives me as my spouse. I'm in love with Jesus, my divine spouse. Isn't it beautiful? I just love it. That's one of my niece Desiree. One of my nieces has a whole set of these depicting the nativity of our Lord. It's really beautiful. Uh, I'll just set it here. You can watch it. You don't have to see my face. You can watch that. I've got the light on it and everything. The wings are wire. You can't hardly see them. But anyway, they're there. Okay. Well, today when I was praying at Mass, I was wanting to give a upbeat kind of a of a presentation. My last presentation wasn't so upbeat. In fact, it was, but people I think were turned off by the title. Capital punishment is not Christ-like. Sort of who wants to talk about capital punishment? But anyway, I wanted to put a human face on capital punishment and our culture and everything, and to see it. You see that man on the gurney or that woman on the gurney waiting for their injection, gulp, as such a contradictory to all we stand for, that we're made to God's image and likeness, and we're called to care and love. Yes, to take the person has to suffer the consequences, but not to take his life, but to parole with life without parole. That and to not to take a life, though, because we're called not to take lives, but to give our life in loving service to others. So it's such a contradiction to our humanity and to our following Jesus, who has great compassion. Look how he had compassion for the thief over a good thief called Dismas. We call him the good thief, and he really pulled the last great heist of the ages, stealing heaven from Jesus. Remember me when you go to heaven, when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus said, you got it. When this day you will be with me in heaven. But anyway, so Jesus knows about capital punishment, and he's teaching us about it from the cross, and it's not what he wants, and it's not what our holy fathers have been trying to plead with us. Yes, it can be moral to put criminals away, to put them to death, but it's not what God wants us, what Jesus wants us to do, what the holy fathers and our bishops want, because it's so inhuman and so dehumanizing for our culture and for the victim. Even though it did horrible, or she did horrible things, we still have great compassion for them and love for them. We forgive them, not to take our revenge and all those kind of things on them. Okay, so that's why I didn't get many views for that one, but I just want to give you hope, and not talk about heavy things like that all the time. So what came to my mind, it was at Mass, or before Mass, or I forgot when, but anyway, when I was at church this morning, and Janis Babson, she used to say, I'm Janis with an I. My sister's Janis too, but she's a C-E, I-C-E, Janis. Anyway, 50 years ago, and what that came to me, I wasn't reading about anything, but that there was an article in Reader's Digest about this little girl in Canada, I think in Windsor, Canada, very close to the United States border there, and Janis Babson, she from good Catholic family, she loved life, and she loved to play in the snow. They get a lot of snow up there in Canada. And she was just a wonderful young woman. One day she came in after she liked horse shows. She loved horses. She would steal all the carrots and bring them out to feed down the neighborhood. They had horses down there, and to feed the horses. So the parents had to hide the carrots because little Janis was always feeding the horses with their carrots. She loved horses. I have a dear friend, Teresa, who loves horses too. I'm always seeing her on the Facebook with all kinds of beautiful creatures, horses, and the real devotion to horses, real love for horses. Okay, Janis had a great love for horses too, and used all the carrots up at the family there. They had to hide them from her. Anyway, this was in 1962. Well, I Googled Janis on the Google thing, and you'll do the same probably, maybe, to see more about her. It's 50 years, and they've come out with a new book, a reprint of the old book, about Janis's life. And I said, 50 years, here I am celebrating, and I told the people, made a comment on their blog and said, I'm going to use this for YouTube to give people hope and to call people to holiness. To remember Janis, the 50th anniversary of her death, 1962. Anyway, so she was watching the horse shows, and then they had something about eye transplants and how people can give their eyes when they die to help others see better and to see. And so Janis came real quiet in the kitchen after she saw that program, almost in tears, and says, Mama, I want to give my eyes. Would you give my eyes when I die to the eye bank so people could see again, or something like that? The mother was very moved and didn't know what to say. But anyway, that's what she was. Well, sometime later, she was coming home from school. She loved to play in the snow, and the kids were, she frolicked through the snow. It gets a lot of snow up there in Canada. Anyway, the mother looked out, and there Janice was, couldn't make it through the snow. She was real weak looking. She sent her big sister and her little brother out to help her back to the house. So mother thought she was had a cold or something. Anyway, she got worse and worse, and ultimately she uh, she was dying, and her dad, she made out a will and everything, and she of all the things, she knew she was dying, and when she saw her mom cry, she says, "Don't cry, Mom, for me, please. I'm going to go to heaven. I'll be fine." She was encouraging the mother and dad, and she looked at her dad and said, "Dad, did you make arrangements that they get my eyes when I die, to give it to some people who need my eyes to see?" And the dad said, "No, I didn't. But please, Dad, do it. Hurry up, because we don't have a lot of time." So the dad went out the hall, looked for a nurse, and the nurse got a hold of the doctor and the eye bank, and they got the forms, and Dad did that right away, and they made out the forms. To her happiness, she was very happy for that. But she also accepted. One time before she went to the hospital, she didn't want to go. She didn't want to go. I don't want to go to the hospital. But the mother says, "Well, God, no, God gave you this illness. God let you have this illness. God never gives illnesses. God permitted you to have this illness. God wants you to go to the hospital to get well." So anyway, she said, "What do you want? Do you want to do what you want or what God wants?" Well, she was so in love with God, she started to think about it, and the mother left the room. She said, "Mom, let me think a little." And then she prayed, I guess, in the room, and she came down all ready to go to the hospital. She submitted herself, and even to death, she submitted herself to 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 uh, to to leaving her mom and dad and her siblings. She was just a delightful little girl, and I don't do justice. Those who have a computer can Google and see the beautiful, touching story of Janis. And when I saw all the comments, I said, "My goodness, 50 years ago this was in Catholic Digest, and how many people were moved by that same," I had no idea, by that same article. I never forgot that. And I bring that as a sign of hope. Here's a regular family, just, you know, happy and everything. And it's this little girl, the acceptance of God's will, the acceptance of suffering, and wanting to give her eyes to some other person so they can see. So there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of holiness around me. I see it all around me. And people who don't even think they're saints, I know they are. I know God's working in them, and they're responding. It's there's holiness, more holiness. We say where Saint I don't say Saint Paul said, "Where sin abounds, grace more abounds." Who was it? Sir Walter Scott in The Tale of Two Cities said, "This is the worst of times and the best of times." But that was during the French Revolution and all, but it was really tough there. But there were great saints from the Revolution. So there was more where there's sin, there's more grace, and our times are rough today too. So have hope where sin abounds, God's grace more abounds, and have hope. And Janis Babson is one of those signs of our hope, that God's grace is alive and well in Canada, and I see graces in the United States all over. I talk to them daily, holy saints in the work in progress, God's work in progress. God bless you.